Thank you all for having me. I'm Joni Williamson. I'm the broker at ERA Martin Associates here in Salisbury, and we also have an office in Ocean Pines. I am a little limited in my visual presentation here today, so if anybody wants a copy of this presentation or wants some deeper dive into the charts that I'm using, maybe either give me your business card before you leave, or I'll send it to Alex and he can share it with everybody. But I had some handouts prepared and left them on the copier before I left my office. So got a PowerPoint here, but I know we can't see it very well. But I'm going to be doing a little deep dive into the real estate market. And Alex in particular asked me to talk about Wicomico County, Somerset County, and then the Seaford area. Not Sussex County as a whole, because a lot of that includes the beach areas and that's a whole different animal, but more Seaford, which is kind of similar to our normal residential market that we see here in the Salisbury area. So I'm going to talk about each of those three areas. I've got some charts and I'll kind of try to tell you what the main gist of it is in case you can't see, but again, I'm happy to share this presentation with anybody. So what has been going on in the market since COVID, when we all know things went crazy? Before COVID, 2016 to 2020 or so, we were still recovering from what we called the Great Recession. Home prices plummeted in 2008, 2010, and we were still climbing out of that. Values were slowly creeping up, but inventory was still creeping down. We kind of saw a halt to new construction when the recession happened, so we were still feeling the lag of fewer new homes being built than we needed to satisfy our buyer demand even before COVID. It was becoming a more balanced market from the crazy buyer's market that we had seen post-recession. Then COVID happened, and as you all remember, everything kind of stopped for a couple of months. Nobody knew what was going on. Even pending sales that were going on, we weren't sure if they were going to settle. It was a challenge to get them to settle. It was a challenge to even get people to physically come and sign their settlement papers. After a couple of months, regulations began to trickle down that let us continue to do our jobs, let us continue to go out there and see people, show homes, sell homes, things like that. The government also inserted themselves into the market in the form of, well, a lot of different things, but it ended up affecting us in the way of low interest rates. As you all remember, COVID caused interest rates in the lower than 3% range, which is historically low. We have never seen that before, and it made it more possible than ever for more buyers to buy homes. A lot of people's jobs were still secure in the COVID times, so fortunately they had the income, and with those low interest rates, not only could they buy, but it increased their buying power to higher than they would have ever expected. That created a huge seller's market, as you all know, but inventory was still incredibly low. Not only now were we dealing with very little new construction, but a lot of sellers were scared. They weren't sure, A, should I let people into my home? Am I going to get sick if people are touring my home? But B, if I sell my home, where will I go next? And as we started to see, this is important, but as we started to see refinances and people refinancing in those 3% and 2% rates, those people are not going to move now. They have great rates. If they were to sell their home and buy a new one, they're going to be looking at our interest rates today, which are around 6%. And a lot of people, that's not palatable. It doesn't make sense for them to sell. So we're still feeling incredibly low inventory, which is causing a lot of strain on our market. So the past couple of years, we've had a booming real estate market. But in mid-2022, as you all know, interest rates began to rise, inventory remained low, and a lot of uncertainty from both buyers and sellers alike caused things to, sort of slowly grind to a little bit of a stopping point. The market got a little bit slower. We were seeing fewer sales. We have not, well, I'll get to the statistics in a minute, but we're seeing fewer sales. In early 2023, we're seeing the predictions come through that the market is cooling, and we're just struggling to find what we would consider a normal market. We swung from extreme buyer's market to extreme seller's market, and now we don't really know where we're going to fall. We're just reacting to what's happening and trying to best educate ourselves as we can from the experts. Real estate transactions are more work than ever, so we're doing a lot of work, but buyers and sellers have a lot more expectations than ever before too. So to get into some numbers and statistics, and again, I know you all can't see these, but I'll kind of explain what the charts are. I'm going to look at each county, show you some statistics on each county, and then do the same for the other two. So this is Wicomico County active listings, and this chart starts in January. It's showing the January active listings from 2016 up until January 2023, just last month. So as you can see, in January 2016, our inventory was 596 homes here in Wicomico County. Right now, or as of a couple of weeks ago, our inventory is 145 homes. That's less than a quarter of what we would normally expect to see. I think you all, as people who are in the real estate industry in one way or another, are feeling that lack of inventory, whether you're looking to buy or you have things that you're considering selling. Pending listings, this is pending home sales in Wicomico County year over year. So the chart starts in 2018 and goes to 2022. These are just year-end pending home sales throughout the whole year in Wicomico. In 2018, started at 1,244. In 2021, they were all the way up to 1,556, so quite a big increase. Last year, again, we were down to 1,245, so almost down to our same numbers as we saw in 2016. So before things started getting crazy, we're kind of seeing the trend settling back down to where we were before that happened. This is closed sales in Wicomico County, and you'll see I've highlighted a couple of numbers. In 2020 and 2021, our home sales values increased first 11% and then 18% year over year. That's a huge percent within a 2-year span. However, 2022, the end of year, our home sales were down 16.2% from 2021. So remember, 2020 and 2021 falsely inflated from COVID. Now we're seeing our numbers come back down a little bit, but very much in line with where we would have been if COVID had never happened or affected our market. These are our sales values in Wicomico County, quarter over quarter from 2008 until the end of the year 2022. So you'll see they're continually creeping up, but at the end of 2022, we did have a little downtick. So I think that's in line with what we were all feeling at the second half of 2022. And currently, as of the end of the year, our median sales price in Wicomico County is $208,000, which is a 14% increase over the previous year. So keep this in mind, even though our sales numbers are going down a little bit, our sales values are not going down, which is a huge indication of our market being extremely buyer heavy and a lot of demand and very little supply. This chart shows days on market, and normally we expect to see 70, maybe 90 days on market in Wicomico County, but for the past couple of years it's been around 30. Certain price ranges it's a little bit higher. Some homes sit on the market a little bit more, but in some price ranges it's homes are getting snatched up sometimes before they even hit the market, sometimes before they're even available for buyer showings. So right now our average days on market in Wicomico County is 38. These charts are for Somerset County. So as you'll see, again, this is our active listings in Somerset County, a huge decrease from 2018 on. We're at about 67 active listings in the whole county of Somerset right now. Again, not as much activity happening there as Wicomico, but if you're a home buyer and there's 67 homes total to look at, and maybe only 15–20% of those are in your price range, that's not a lot to choose from. Pending home sales in Somerset County, again, you'll see that our numbers are sort of mirroring where they would be if COVID had never affected us. Closed sales in Wicomico County. Now, I thought this was interesting. In 2021, the number of closed sales increased by 49%, almost 50%. And as you know, even during the COVID craze, areas that were previously not as popular, maybe people are looking to build new homes, looking to move into areas where they hadn't previously wanted to invest. Somerset County is a perfect example of that. 50% more closings in 2021 versus 2022. Now, the number of closings was only 344, so we're not talking about a huge number, but still notable for that county. These are our sales values in Somerset. Again, they're continuing to creep up, but you can see quarter over quarter the cyclical nature of the seasonality of real estate, which we all know. And days on market, their days on market currently is a little bit higher at 67, but it typically has been a little bit higher than Wicomico. The next set of information is for Seaford area. Again, didn't want to do the whole Sussex County area since that includes the beaches, and that's a totally different thing. So we're looking at the Seaford area, which actually is very similar to where our area in terms of numbers. Active listings, very low numbers in Seaford as well. Currently they have 49, so it's a little bit more to choose from there than Wicomico. Pending home sales, same kind of trend that we see there. And in the, oh no, that's December, I'm sorry. Closed sales in Seaford area. Again, that 2021 number is an anomaly. You see that you see that number high on every chart that I'm showing. But if we take that out of the picture, it's a little bit different. This is the sales values in the Seaford area. Their current median sales price is $257,500. And that was, well, in 2022, it was $245,000, which was 14% increase over the previous year. Days on market in Seaford, right around 33, very similar to our market here in Wicomico. So what do we expect going forward this year? We are already in this year seeing increased buyer activity. Real estate always kind of takes a pause around the holidays. People are busy with other things going on in their lives. A lot of listings are put on hold until after the holidays. So we usually see a lot of increased activity in the second half of January going forward. And we're certainly seeing that on the buyer side. There's buyers out there looking despite the higher interest rates. However, we're not seeing a lot of sellers put their house on the market. I think they're still unsure of where they're going next. They don't want to leave their 3, 4, 2% interest rates, whatever they may have, and buy something that's less money at a higher rate and pay the same amount. And we're not seeing a lot of foreclosure inventory hit the market. There's very, very little foreclosures, very, very few short sales and distressed properties that we saw in the Great Recession, 10, 15 years ago. I did see a short sale the other day though, so I thought that was interesting. So again, big surge, not big, but a surge of buyer activity after the holidays, but very little seller activity. Interest rates have ticked down a little bit since the new year in the last couple of weeks. They're still, holding steady around 6%. Some buyers I'm hearing are getting just under 6, but they're still historically low. I hear a lot of lenders and appraisers and people in the finance world talk about when they bought their first home, it was 18%. When I first got into real estate, it was 12%. I can't imagine trying to sell somebody a home with a 12% interest rate, but they did it all day long. So it's all about perception. Everything changes. And a lot of lenders are working on programs right now where they're telling people, what their little slogan that they're using is marry the house and date the rate. And buy the house that you want, get that interest rate. A lot of them are offering free refinances for the next year. So if the rates go down, you can refinance it at no cost. Why would you not do that if you need to grow, if you need to expand or downsize or whatever your lifestyle need may be? Our experts are predicting later this year that rates will go down a little bit more. Third quarter is what I've heard from a few different sources. My magic crystal ball tells me. But again, we're not going to see 3%. We might see 5, we might see a little bit under 5, but that's where it was when I got into real estate and people were buying a lot of houses. So I'm excited about that. It get a little bit lower where it's more palatable for people to handle. We are still seeing multiple offers in some price ranges if homes are priced well. We're not seeing 10 and 20 multiple offers, but 2 or 3, enough to make a buyer make a competitive offer for sure. Our challenges going forward, in general, inventory. I know that new construction is slowly starting to take off and begin again. I hear that the cost of materials are starting to normalize and come down a little bit from all the COVID shortages that we had for some materials, not all. But sellers are still uncertain about what they want to do with their property, where they will go next, what it means for them financially. A lot of potential sellers don't want to leave those interest rates, and they're finding ways to make their home work for them, whether it be additions or remodeling or whatever the case may be. The rising interest rates have priced many buyers out. I saw the presentation this morning that the difference between this time right now and a year ago this time, because of the rising interest rates, it has decreased buyers' buying power by $107,000. So for the same monthly payment, they can buy $107,000 less home now than they could a year ago, which is a huge impact. And it's not like prices are going down. You all see that the prices continue to go up. The days on market continues to remain low, even though we don't have that inventory out there. Again, marry the house, date the rate is a good thing for buyers to think about if they need or want to move. That interest rate is not going to be forever. And the housing prices, as they shot up during COVID and shortly after COVID, they're still up there. Our prices have not come down, so a lot of buyers still can't afford that home. Our first-time buyers are struggling, not only in price, but they're struggling to compete in the market against cash and conventional loans. When they have FHA loans, USDA loans, they may need seller closing costs, all the things that we normally see, but sellers have the opportunity to be very picky right now. And if they're gonna, why would they take an offer that's got some stringent financing and some closing costs versus somebody that's willing to pay me cash and waive inspections? So it's been quite the seller's market, and it's become tough for buyers. Rentals have also, as you all know, have become a concern with the rising value of rentals. If you all are landlords, it's probably not a concern, it's probably a good thing. But as you know, the prices, home value prices, whether you're talking about sales or rentals, as they climb higher, it does make it more difficult for consumers to afford it. And that's why we have groups like this to all talk about things like that. That is all I have for my slides, but does anybody have any questions or anything like that? Go ahead, saw you first.
What are you seeing with the buyers who are buying? What's the demographic? Or is it kind of across the board? Are they young, are they older?
It is across the board.
Single, they're married?
Across the board, I would say we're seeing fewer single buyers just because to qualify, it's one income versus two. Not seeing as, with our buyers, there's a lot of buyers out there who are making a lot of offers and not winning the house. A lot of the first-time buyers with these more difficult mortgages that are more difficult for the sellers are putting in 2 and 3 and 4 offers before they finally secure a house. Now your investors out there, your people with cash or lines of credit or somebody who can make a purchase easy for a seller, they're still making out pretty well, and they're still out there too. We're seeing less cash in the market, not as many people coming in like that, but it's still out there. And for investors, as you all know, the home values have made it hard for you to find a good deal and make a profit. So, Bonnie, do you have any more to say on that, on who the demographic of buyers you're seeing?
You're right. It's more couples, or for instance, just sold a house that have 2 sisters that are buying together, so nurses that are living together.
Yeah. So people combining forces. Yeah.
Combining forces.
The household formation is pretty much going down, or the household formation is not increasing too much.
It's not what?
The household formation is not going up. So they going down a little bit, like they combining 2 households together.
I'm not really seeing that, but I think that people who can't compete have kind of priced themselves out of the market and are finding other, they're renting or they're living with family or something like that.
This morning we have 125 houses on the market right now. Is that 122?
Yeah, not sure. Yeah, I don't know what.
Only 122 houses on the market right now in this county. 135 in Worcester County.
Yeah, I think it was. And I saw a hand back here as well.
How about on the demand side, like along with Alex is saying, like wage growth, employment opportunities, population growth? Are you seeing real positive numbers there, or is it pretty flat?
We are seeing growth numbers, but those growth numbers don't yet match the rising property value numbers. I think that they will, because property values are still increasing, but they're increasing at a slower rate. They're flattening off a little bit. And incomes are still reacting to what's been happening in the job market lately. As you know, a lot of employees have the opportunity to be competitive and look for competitive employer offers. I saw, we were watching a presentation a couple of months ago where it was talking about people who just got a promotion versus people who took a totally different job in a totally different position, and how fast they were growing. And it was a little line graph, and you could see the property values and then you could see the incomes, and we're going to intersect soon, and it will make more sense soon. But I think we need that, and especially in this area where we don't have a lot of corporate jobs, we don't have a lot of jobs that are, I guess, affected by what's going on in the big cities and the more metropolitan areas. We're kind of our own little pocket, and our income growth is slower. I mean, people are getting raises, but it's not as quick as the raises that they're getting in the metropolitan areas.
How about population growth? Are there more people coming into this Eastern Shore area?
There are, and I don't have that information, but I have.
There's actually a as of 3 months ago.
Okay,
So
that's good to know.
I don't know, Chris, but I know it's good. The website actually measure the growth influx versus outflux, and you can that number.
Okay.
I'll put a website about that. But yeah,
I-
we are growing, but not. We're definitely on a higher. Okay, this is like right after COVID. As I looked into it, so I'm not sure how it's really affected by now. But
Yeah, right after
going back
COVID, we
again.
were growing at a faster rate than your metropolitan areas because people were looking to get out of the city. They wanted to come to where it's more spread out. We're in the country, we're rural here, it's great. Our prices are lower.
So have they stopped? Was it sticky migration?
I think so, I believe so. And now people can work remotely. There's very little reason for them to go back to the city or wherever they may have come from. I don't have those numbers, but it sounds like you might have been looking at something similar, so yeah.
That's a key.
Yeah, where are they coming and why, and yeah.
That demand has enough cash in their pocket, it'll drive rentals, will drive for
Yeah.
sales.
I would love to know, or feel free to share that, yeah.
It's really cool that you guys put any place you want to do, and it gives you like jobs growth, what areas, population growth. It's on the website. I have it in my favorites.
Okay, perfect.
I sent it to everybody on the email list. I'll send everybody the little link, and you guys just see it. It's really cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So is your agency, is all of your clients pretty much 100% home buyers, or do you have clients that are also like reaching out to your agency trying to find a place to rent? And if so, like how much of there is that, what can you say about it?
So we have a separate brokerage that does property management. Most of our agents don't work with rentals. As you know, with rentals, there's not an MLS system, so it's very hard for one agent to take a tenant and make them their own and show them all the different rental properties. They kind of have to call around and find out all the different opportunities in town. But if an agent gets a call like that, they will talk to our rental department, try to refer them. They'll sometimes make some phone calls and try to refer them to the different larger agencies in town. If they see a property and they know they are interested, we can kind of connect the dots. A lot of property management companies won't pay a realtor commission, so our agents that don't really have an incentive to work with that tenant, they're sort of on their own. But we will point them in the right direction, and our property management department will often tell them about others in the area, because if we don't have it, hopefully they can find it somewhere else. It's that sort of thing. In our area, though, you'll find a lot of realtors either do sales, or we have a few rental agents or property managers, just because of that data sharing MLS that we have for sales doesn't really exist for the rental market. I wish that it did. Anything else?
Noticed any changes in lenders' underwriting criteria as the markets have kind of made these rather drastic swings as far as eligibility for different programs?
Well,
Changing with these
so
changes in the market?
yeah, so back in the Great Recession, a lot of the reason for the crash was bad lending practices. People were getting loans who should not have gotten loans. They weren't qualified for loans, or they were qualified, but then the rate adjusted and they couldn't afford it anymore. So since then, 2010, 12 on, lending practices have been really stringent, and if anything, those have changed a little bit to be a little bit more stringent since COVID, but they're still very stringent. People are not getting loans who can't afford them, which is a good thing. During COVID, it caused some questions about employment. They are, double, triple making sure that people are employed. Not so much now, but a year or two ago, when jobs were in jeopardy, they were verifying employment, and that was kind of causing a hiccup. For some people, a lot of people were furloughed, and does that, are they employed, are they not employed, how does that affect their potential loan? So they haven't changed drastically over the last couple of years, but they're still stringent. They're not terrible. There's some creative programs out there, especially for investors and people who aren't just buying that primary house. But I feel confident going forward that even if something crazy happens with the economy, most people can still afford their homes, which makes me feel like we're not going to have a big crash like we saw a few years ago. And that's why we're not seeing a lot of the foreclosure inventory that we expected to see when COVID first hit. So that's my opinion anyway. Anybody else?
Like a short sale?
Just one.
One recently.
One of my agents was writing an offer on it, and they were a new agent. And I was like, "Are you sure it's a short sale? It can't be." But it was.
I mean, I guess you you haven't seen escalation clauses in a while?
Actually, if there's a multiple offer situation and the buyer wants the house, even if there's just one other offer, I would recommend using an escalation depending on how much.
Seen that
Yep,
today,
yep.
actively?
Yeah, in certain price ranges, that first time buyer price range, if something's listed in our area, between 150 and 300 and it's priced well, I mean, you are likely to get a couple of offers because there's buyers out there who are just looking for things. Every time something hits the market, you probably have buyers that want to go see it because they're just waiting for that house to hit. So yeah, if you've been trying and you want to compete, then I would still recommend an escalation clause. It's a good tool. Anybody else?
So most of us in this room are investors. In your opinion, what's the best play for an investor in this market?
For finding homes?
Yeah.
Talk to realtor friends because we hear about a lot of things that happen before they hit the market. We hear our fellow agents discussing people who are getting homes ready to list, or somebody who is, something's going wrong in their life and they're going to need to unload quickly. Make sure the people who are in real estate that know that you're looking and what your price ranges are and what your specifications are. That's one way to get a jump and get things that are before they're listed. Once they're listed, not only is the price usually is higher than you're interested in, but you might have to compete. And I know most investors don't want to do that. You want to be able to find a deal and secure it. Not as many. I hear of one or two here and there. Do you ever hear of any? I haven't heard of any in a while. Because the market's been so hot, if somebody wants to sell, they're usually going the traditional route and listing it and selling it, knowing that that's where they can get the most exposure. In the past year or so, I've seen a couple of estate auctions and situations like that where a family maybe doesn't live here and doesn't really know what to do with it, and their attorney puts them in touch with an auctioneer. But if you know any attorneys too, talk to them because they sometimes know of things that are happening before they happen. So let your attorney friends know that you are looking to invest, and sometimes they can help their client and help you at the same time.
A good way to find a lot of information is via face-to-face.
Absolutely, yeah, just face-to-face.
Ask question and most people over here know of somebody, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, networking with people is often, that's how we do it. We talk to people we know, our sphere of influence, as we say. But yeah, we're definitely let people in your life who have exposure to that know that you're looking to invest and what you're looking for, and keep the word out for them. All right, anything else? Well, thank you guys. I'll send this presentation to Alex so he can share it with all of you all, and you can see the charts and the numbers in a little bit more detail.